this CodeLab series. So in the previous part we looked at state and binding. In this part we're going to look at managing state and lifecycle. So first we're going to add some overlay views to the meeting timer screen. So let's get started. In our meeting view.swift, we can embed the top level VStack in a ZStack and move the padding to the ZStack. So in our meeting view, we're going to command click to embed this in a ZStack, and we can add the padding that we have to our ZStack here. Now we can add a rounded rectangle with a radius of 16 to our ZStack. So under our ZStack, inside our ZStack, we can say rounded rectangle with a corner radius of 16. Now we can add the fill to the rectangle, and we can fill it with scrum.theme.main color. Now we can create a scrum binding. Let's check to see if it builds. So it's giving us a build error. Let's hit build again. So it's asking us to pass the binding into the meeting previews. So we can do that with the constant daily scrum.sample data. So let's do that down in the meeting preview. We're going to call it scrum.constant, and it's going to be daily scrum.sample data with the first element. Now in our detail view.swift, we can pass the scrum binding in the meeting view destination. So in detail view.swift, is where we're going to pass the scrum binding to the meeting view. And the way we do that is inside the scrum, in the meeting view, we pass the scrum binding in the constructor for meeting view. And this should fix the build errors. So let's refresh. Now in meeting view.swift, we can set the foreground color of the ZStack to the accent color of the Scrum's theme. So we set the foreground color in meeting view.swift to the accent color. Now we can set the navigation bar display mode, navigation bar title display mode to inline. Now we can extract the meeting header. So let's create a SwiftUI file called meeting header view. And to extract the contents, we're going to move the progress view, seconds elapsed vstack, seconds remaining vstack, and the accessibility data from meeting view.swift to the meeting view header, to the meeting header view. So let's do that. We go to our meeting view and we can extract everything that's here, starting with the H stack, starting with the progress view, and we can extract that to the meeting header view. Now we can create a top level vstack and move the accessibility modifiers from the H stack to the vstack. So let's create a top level vstack and move everything into the vstack, and the accessibility headers remain on the vstack. Now we can add properties to pass arguments to the initializer of the meeting header view. That's going to be the seconds elapsed and the seconds remaining properties. We can replace the label titles with the seconds elapsed value. So this is going to be seconds elapsed, and in the second one is where we're going to have seconds remaining. Now we can add the private computer property to calculate the progress in the meeting header view. And we can replace the static data for the accessibility. So we can add the computer property that calculates the minutes remaining using the seconds remaining value. So here we're going to add the minutes remaining value, and let's fix this build error. So we have total seconds set to let's take a look at total seconds, which is a private computed property here, and that goes in here. So we have total seconds, and we have progress, and we have minutes remaining. So let's remove the static data from accessibility value. So we are going to remove the static data from accessibility value minutes remaining. And we're going to make it minutes remaining variable. And now we can make a change to the header. So in our meeting header view, we're going to introduce a property called theme, and that's going to be a theme constant. Actually, let's quickly fix the preview for our meeting header view. So in our meeting header view, we need to pass seconds elapsed and seconds remaining in. So let's do that. And also we can add preview size that fits as modifier to that preview, and let's build. So that's fine. Now let's add some design to the header. So in our meeting header view, we're going to add this property called theme. And let's modify the progress view with the custom progress view style that's in the starter project. So in order to get that progress view style, I have a folder called resources, and in that folder we have project files part 8. So we can look for the Scrum progress view style file, and we can drag it in to our project. Now we can add the Scrum progress view style to our progress view in our meeting header view. So in our meeting header view, we add progress view style as a modifier to the progress view down here, and we can observe that it changes the style. Let's double check that it's building. So we need to pass the theme to our preview. So down here in the preview is where we need to add the theme. And let's build. So we have the theme on the progress view now. So let's continue. So we can add the trailing icon label style to the seconds remaining label. Now we can add top and horizontal padding to adjust the spacing in the top level VStack. Now we can add a state object for the source of truth. So let's go ahead and add scrumtimer.swift. And we're going to add the scrumtimer.swift into our project from here. Now we can move the scrumtimer.swift into our models folder. And if we take a look at the scrumtimer.swift, we can see that it's an observable object. So this is a reference type. and the timer calls the speaker change action closure, which is down here somewhere. Yeah, let's take a look in here. So this is the speaker changed action closure, and that happens when a new speaker starts speaking. So in meeting-view.swift, we can add a Scrum timer property. That's the state object. So we can add a state object called Scrum timer in meeting-view.swift. So that makes the source of truth be owned by meeting view, and it also ties the Scrum timer to the meeting view lifecycle. Now we can add a call to the meeting header view to the using the Scrum timer, and pass it in to our meeting view. So just above the circle in the VStack is where we are adding the meeting header view. Now we're going to add lifecycle events. So in the meeting view, we're going to add a onAppear modifier to call Scrum timer.reset. So that's the onAppear modifier. Now we're going to call Scrum timer.startScrum just after the reset call. Now in the onDisappear modifier is where we're going to call Scrum timer.stopScrum. Now we can extract the meeting footer view. Now if we have our speaker number, so we can add the contents of the H stack from meeting view to the meeting footer view body. So let's see how we can do that. Let's go ahead and look at the H stack contents of the meeting view, which is this part, and this part can get extracted into the meeting footer view. So in our meeting footer view is where we're going to extract that, and we can set the preview layout size to size that fits in our meeting footer view preview. Now we can add a speakers property to our meeting footer view, which is an array of speaker. Now we can add a skip action closure property to the view and pass an empty closure to the meeting footer view initializer. So in our meeting view footer, meeting footer view preview, we can pass the speakers in, and then we can refresh to build the project and try to fix any issues here. So we have speakers being passed into meeting footer view, and we have our speakers here. Now we need to add the skip action as well. So let's add the skip action closure to our meeting footer view. And let's hit build. Now we can add a private computed property that determines the speaker number. So here is where we're going to add the speaker number private computed property. We can add a private computed property that checks if the speaker is the last speaker. And we can add a private computer property that returns the active speaker. And we can use the speaker text in the H stack Now we have the value in the H stack. So we can wrap the H stack in a V stack. So let's command click on the H stack to wrap it in a V stack. And we can then add the if last speaker block. So in our H stack is where we can say if is last speaker, and we can say last speaker, and if not, we can display the body. Now we can update the button to use the skip action. So in the closure is where we can update the button. Now we can add the bottom and horizontal padding to our V stack. So if our V stack is here, we can add the padding to it. Now we can add a call to the meeting footer view, and we can pass speakers and the skip action in meetingview.swift. So in meetingview.swift, we are going to extract the meeting footer view. Now we should be able to build and run. So if we go in here and start a meeting and click on next, we can see that the values are advancing. So let's continue. We want to trigger a sound with the AV Foundation framework. So in our resources folder, we have a sound in the resources under the Scrumdinger folder. So we can drag this into our project, and we can put this in a folder called resources. Now we can import the AV Foundation framework in our meeting view. Now we can add a player property that returns avplayer.shared_player. Now in onAppear we can add the speaker changed action. So this speaker changed action goes in here. Now in the closure we can seek to 0 for the audio file, and that ensures that it plays from the start. Now we can play the audio. Now we can build and run. Now here it's saying that AV Player doesn't have a shared ding player, so we have to add an extension to AV Player. So let's find the AV Player ding extension and drag it in to our project. Now this AV Player ding extension can go into the models folder, and let's build and run. So now we can start the meeting and click next, and it advances as expected. So thanks for watching. See you in the next part.